The last train on the line. The rain started over Belfast just after midnight. Not the soft kind of rain that taps politely against windows. This rain sounded angry, heavy, sharp, like thousands of fingernails scraping the glass roof of Central Station. Dara Piper checked the old brass pocket watch he'd inherited from his grandfather. 12:13 a.m. The train should have arrived by now, Grace Hannah whispered. The station was almost empty except for a sleeping cleaner and a man in a dark green coat standing perfectly still at the far end of the platform. He hadn't moved once, not even to blink. A flicker passed through the lights overhead. Then came the sound. Not wheels, not brakes. A scream of rusted metal echoing through the tunnels beneath Belfast like something ancient dragging itself awake. The train emerged slowly from the darkness. Black, long, too long, at least 20 carriages, though neither of them could see the end. No company logo, no destination display, only 4 faded words painted near the driver's window. The last train on the line. Grace grabbed Derek's arm. That train wasn't on the timetable. The doors hissed open. Inside, the carriage lights glowed yellow like dying candles, and every seat was occupied, but nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Every passenger stared straight ahead, silent. Derek laughed nervously. Probably tourists. Grace didn't answer, because every passenger looked soaking wet, as if they'd climbed out of the sea. The train pulled away from Belfast and rolled south through County Down. Outside the windows, Ireland looked wrong. The fields stretched too far. Churches appeared where no towns existed, and every now and then they passed groups of people standing motionless in the rain beside the tracks, watching the train go by. At Lisburn, nobody got on. Nobody got off, but the carriage somehow became fuller. Grace noticed first. There was nobody sitting there before. An old woman now occupied the seat across from them. Her skin was gray and tight against her skull. Water dripped steadily from her hair onto the floor. Drip, drip, drip. Dara tried not to stare. The woman slowly turned her head toward him. Her eyes were completely white. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed the carriage. Then came the sounds. Whispering, crying, something wet dragging itself across the floor. Grace gripped Dara's hand so tightly it hurt. The lights flickered back on. The old woman was gone, but the seat remained soaked. The train crossed through Armagh, then Monaghan, then toward Dublin. Yet the stations were impossible. At Drogheda, the platform clock read 3:66 a.m. At Connolly Station, every advertisement on the walls displayed the same sentence: "Don't fall asleep." A child walked slowly through the carriage carrying a lantern. He couldn't have been older than 8. His school uniform was burned black around the edges. "Ticket, please," he said softly. Derek showed him their tickets. The boy stared at them for a long time. Then he frowned. "These are return tickets." "What's wrong with that?" Grace asked. The boy looked confused. "There are no returns on this train." The lantern went out, and the child vanished. By the time they reached Wicklow, people had started changing. Passengers who'd looked normal before now sat twisted at impossible angles. One woman smiled too wide. A man near the back repeatedly smashed his forehead against the window with a dull thud. Thud! Thud! Nobody reacted, not even the conductor. He finally appeared at exactly 17 a.m. Tall, thin, wearing an ancient Irish rail uniform stained dark around the collar. His face looked blurred somehow, like smoke refusing to hold shape. "Next stop," he announced, voice crackling through the speakers. "County Wexford, then Waterford, then Cork, then the end of the line." Dara stood. "We need to get off." The conductor slowly tilted his head. "You boarded willingly." "We made a mistake." "No," the conductor replied. "The mistake was made long before tonight." Then he walked away without a sound. The train sped through Kilkenny, Waterford, Cork, Kerry. Faster now. Far too fast. Outside, Ireland no longer looked real. The sky had vanished entirely. No moon, no stars, only darkness swallowing cliffs, forests, villages. At Limerick Junction, the train stopped beside another train on the opposite track. Every window of the other train was filled with screaming faces, hundreds of them, hands pounding desperately against the glass. Then the other train pulled away into the blackness. Grace began crying quietly. "We're going to die here." Derek wrapped his arm around her, but he was terrified too, because he'd finally noticed something horrible. The passengers weren't breathing. None of them. The train crossed Clare and Galway beneath skies filled with strange red lightning. Then Mayo. Then Sligo. At every station, more passengers appeared. Drowned fishermen, bleeding soldiers, children covered in ash, a priest with no eyes, and all of them slowly turned to stare at Dara and Grace. Together, at the same time, the carriage speakers crackled. "Final passengers remaining," the conductor announced. "Prepare for arrival." Grace suddenly froze. "What if," she whispered, "what if we were never supposed to board?" Dara's stomach dropped, because he remembered something. The man at the Belfast platform. The one in the green coat. He hadn't been waiting for the train. He'd been warning them. Donegal came next. Then Leitrim. Then Roscommon. The train began climbing through thick fog over empty mountains where no tracks should exist. The passengers started whispering in unison. Low, wet, ancient. Grace covered her ears. Dara looked out the window and saw hundreds of figures running beside the train, keeping pace, smiling, their feet bent backwards, their mouths stretched open impossibly wide. One of them leaped against the glass. Crack! A handprint remained. Not a human hand. Too many fingers. The lights died again, this time for longer. In the darkness, someone sat down beside Dara. He could smell seawater and rot. A voice breathed into his ear, "You should have gotten off in Dublin." The lights returned. Grace was gone. Grace? Passengers now filled every inch of the carriage, standing shoulder to shoulder, all staring at him, smiling. Dara pushed through them desperately. "Grace!" He searched carriage after carriage as the train roared through Cavan and back toward the northern border. Every carriage became worse. One was filled entirely with water. Another contained rows of coffins strapped into seats. In the final carriage, he found Grace standing alone beside the rear window. She was facing away from him. "Grace?" Slowly, she turned around. Her eyes were completely white. Water poured from her mouth. "You stayed too long," she whispered. Then the emergency lights switched on red. The train began slowing. Outside the windows was nothing but black ocean beneath a dead sky. No land, no Ireland, no tracks. Yet the train still moved. The conductor's voice echoed one final time. "Last stop," he announced. "The end of the line." The doors opened. Cold seawater flooded into the carriage. Passengers stood calmly and walked out of the darkness below. One by one, Dara backed away screaming. Grace stepped toward him slowly. Her smile widened wider, and the train lights finally went out forever. The next morning, railway workers in Belfast found Platform 4 completely flooded with seawater. No train had arrived overnight. No CCTV footage existed. No records. No timetable. Nothing. Only 2 soaked train tickets lying on the platform floor. And written on the back in trembling handwriting were 6 words: "Don't take the last train."